Hello everybody and welcome back to Foundations of Faith. It's your girl Jasmine here with another video. So, it's been about a month since I recorded my last video, and woo chalet, okay? It has been a journey to say the least. So today I'm going to be filming a get ready with me. I'm getting ready to go to this Black women empowerment event here in Chicago, and I'm going to be talking about just kind of what has been going on in my life for the past few months as far as depression goes. So let's go ahead and get started. I feel like just naturally as Black women, we are seen as having to be the provider of everything. And I'm not saying that that's always been my situation, but I feel like growing up and seeing Black women around me providing and making a way out of no way, that growing up, I feel like once I got older, I was like, oh, then that's what I need to do. Like that is what Black women do. Like we make mountains out of molehills. We sort of do everything even when we don't have the capacity to do so. So last year, I had a lot of things on my plate. I founded a nonprofit organization called Black Girl Beautiful, which is centered around trauma-based healing for young Black girls here in the city of Chicago. And I'm also a full-time educator and a full-time auntie and sister and daughter, and I serve in ministry at my church and all of these other things that I'm super grateful for. But I feel like last year things started to get very overwhelming, and I really feel like a lot of that was based in the fact that ever since I was like a kid, I feel like I have been finding out who I was through other people, if that makes sense. Like I don't think that purely who I was as an individual was based in what I liked and what I didn't like and who I am and who I'm not, but I really allow other people to dictate when I was happy and when I was sad. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because ever since I was a kid, like I realized that I have very strong empathy for others. And so when people around me are going through things, I'm going through things. When people around me are frustrated, I'm frustrated. And now that I'm older, I realize that that's not a feasible thing. Like letting other people around you control your emotions as well as control your perception of yourself is very detrimental to oneself. And so about in the middle of last year, around September, I got really sick, and it took me back a bit, because it wasn't like, oh, I have a common cold. It was like I was really sick, and I feel like I had poured so much into people and was expecting people to show up for me in many ways, and a lot of people did not. And I understand people have their own capacities and things like that, but that was like a blow to me, because it's like I literally would be on my last, tired, drained, sleep deprived, but would show up for people who needed me, and that was hurtful for me when people didn't do the same. And so I luckily was able to be healed and made it through that process, that very long process. While at the same time that I was sick, I was in a relationship, and the relationship was great. Like he was a great guy, but I feel like a lot of the emotions that I felt in our relationship was not based on how I felt as a person, but more so was based in how he felt as a person. And I was carrying a lot of emotions and feelings that didn't necessarily pertain to me or how I felt about things. I wasn't really able to verbalize how I felt about certain topics or what I liked and what I didn't like. And I feel like that's been kind of where I've been for a while, as long as I can remember. Like I've never really felt like I've been able to speak up for myself and really tell people what I like and what I don't like. And so sadly the relationship ended. Like we are still great friends, but after the relationship ended, like I really felt isolated. And now that I'm looking back on it, like that should have been a time where I drew closer to God, but instead I tried to fill the void with going out with friends and trying to be like fake happy, and that just was not a healthy space or place for me. Because essentially what was happening was I was faking it. Like, I would be out with my friends and I would be the social person that I am. And now I know that that's definitely like one of my gifts, is being around people and imparting things into them and showing up for people. But at the same time, like, I can't do that with an empty cup. And so I would literally be faking it. Like, people would be like, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm great. Like, everything is great. And secretly, like, I'm at home crying because I just feel unfulfilled and I feel like my life is not what I want it to be. And so this past December, like, I really, really hit an all-time low. And it was to the point where I wouldn't want to get out the bed. Like, it was hard for me to, it was very, 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 very hard for me to go to work. It was hard for me to want to be social, but I still did it. Because in my mind, it's like, well, I need to show up for people and I need to be able to be all these things to people. And when people call on me, I need to be reliable. And I was recently listening to a podcast by one of my favorite writers. Her name is Alexandria L. You should definitely follow her on social media at Alex L on Instagram. I'm not sure of her other handles, but she was basically doing a podcast with a woman who is like a communal healer. She has like a communal healing space, and the woman basically said, like, we oftentimes equate self-care with selfishness, and we feel like if we take time for ourselves to really sit back and think about what we need and detach from the world and detach from social media and start telling people no, that we feel selfish. And I feel like that was really like a heavy burden on me, because it's like, oh, if you tell people you can't show up, then like people are gonna be like, oh, she's unreliable, oh, she's a selfish person, oh, she's this, oh, she's that. And so I was like literally killing myself. Like, literally would be crying, like doing my makeup and putting my clothes on, and then show up to the event like, hey y'all, like, I'm so glad to be here. Girl, okay, basically living two lives. And then I would come home and I would be taking my makeup off exhausted, didn't even have enough energy to go out, coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning, coming home at 12 o'clock in the morning, going to work the next day, or coming home and sleeping the whole Saturday away. And it got to a point where I was just like, something has got to give, honey, something's got to give. And so yeah, so I tried to, I tried to still be me in the midst of all the stuff that I was going through. And I really tried. But the thing is, like, I still was not relying on God. I feel like I was just like, oh, like, let me go find another person that's going to be like a cool person to hang out with. And not saying that I totally neglected God, but he wasn't getting the whole me. I wasn't setting aside time to really be poured into and to really seek him in the word. And I was at church, and church was like the highlight. Church is always the highlight of my week, but church during this time was like, I have to go to church. Like, I have to go to everything at church. I have to go to meetings. I have to go to Bible study. Like, I have to be at everything. And I was still in those places and spaces, like literally like asking God to show up and show out. But then when in my alone time, like, it wasn't happening because I wasn't seeking him. Like, I wasn't seeking him as much as I was seeking other people, and that was a problem. And that's when I started to realize, like, you definitely need to spend less time with people and more time in the Word. So, New Year happened, had some falling out with some friends, and had to just kind of give that to God. But definitely started to realize, like, you still don't feel like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like when you know what type of person you are, and if you know me, you know I'm out here with crazy hair colors, and I'm like wanting to go to all of these cool events and and experience new things. And man, when I tell you, people will be like, you want to go out? No. People be like, you want to go out and try this new restaurant? No. You want to do? No. Like, I was just, at this point in time, around New Year's, I was just like secluding myself and like shutting myself out and shutting other people out, because I just was so like overwhelmed. The capacity that I had for things was to an all-time low that I just could not do it. I just could not. I couldn't continue to perform like everything was going great when it wasn't. And a few weeks ago, I was just sitting in my apartment and I was just thinking to myself, like, what is the point of this? Like, what is the point of life? Like, why am I here? And I really allowed the devil to get in my ear, and he was basically like, yeah, why are you here? Like, what's your purpose? Like, if you were to die, if you were to take your life, like, what would be left? What would people say about you? Like, what? And I had felt like, because I was so isolated that I had nobody in my corner, that I was like, oh, people aren't even gonna come to my funeral. Like, really allowed the voice of the devil to get into my ear, and I started to have like suicidal thoughts. And I was like, yo, like, really, like, if I die today, like, what? No one's gonna care. And I tried to put it off, and then I woke up the next day and I would be at work and I'll be thinking like, yo, like, if something happens to me, like, my kids will just have another teacher. Or then I would come home and be like, yo, if something happened to me, like, my friends have had new friends. And it was just like constant, like, doom. Like, my earlobe was pulsating with like the voice of the devil. And one thing about me is I have learned to discern between God's voice and the devil's voice. And although I may be going through this journey of building my relationship with God and going through this journey of faith, like, one thing I know is when the devil was talking, honey, let's be clear. And he was definitely chirping in my ear, and I really had to shut that voice up. So it was one night I was sitting in my apartment just like weeping. Like, there was nothing else I could do at this point. Like, literally sobbing, bawling my eyes out, because I was just like, yo, God, you have got to do something. Like, you've got to move on my behalf. And I really was like, I invite you into this space. Like, I invite you into this, because I didn't have words, y'all. Like, literally, like, I felt like my tongue was stuck. I had no words, and I was just like, God, I have to invite you into this space, because if I don't, I'm not gonna make it tomorrow. Like, today is it for me. Like, today is it is the end. I know it's the end. Like, I cannot continue to, I can be strong and diligent in my fight against the devil, but bruh, I need a word. I need something. So I was able to reach out to my pastor, who was like a godsend, literally, y'all. If you are going through a rough time and you can't get in touch with your pastor. Anyways, I was able to get in touch with my pastor. I was able to have a meeting with him. And y'all, when I tell you, I was in there for 2 hours just like sobbing. Sorry, my nose ring twisted. Sobbing, like bawling my eyes literally out. Just telling him about my frustrations about life and how I didn't feel like I had a purpose. And he was just like, what? Like, he's like, it's quite the contrary. Like, your purpose is so big, and God has really enlarged your territory and really has given you such a large heart and passion for the work that you want to do, that sometimes it is very overwhelming. Because y'all, if y'all know me, y'all know that I'm literally pouring myself into everything I do. Like, I do not do anything half-cocked. I do not do anything halfway. If I can't do it 100%, I can't do it at all. So with that being said, like, I'm out here giving 100% of myself to things. And then what I really should be doing when I come home is really allowing God to fill me up. And really asking him to fill those empty places that I just poured out. And understanding that, like, if this is my passion and my calling, that God is definitely going to make provisions and make a way for me. And I don't think that I was doing that. And so I was pouring out and pouring out and pouring out. And then I would come home and I'd be like, waiting on somebody to be like, good job, or waiting on somebody to be like, oh, how was your day? And it's like, girl, if you don't call on the Lord, if you don't get in your word, if you don't find something that you like to do, if you don't paint a picture or write a song, or I've started to learn how to play guitar again, like if you don't do something for yourself and stop looking for validation in other people. And I think depression comes a lot with that, because we feel like we're so isolated because the people in our lives have disappointed us or let us down, or we don't have people in our lives. And it's like, first of all, who said people were gonna always be there? Let's start with that. Nobody. Okay, that is not a rule of thumb. That is not a rule. That is not a golden rule of life, that people are always gonna be there for you. Because baby, let me tell you, they're not. Okay. But in those times, you have to find something else, and you have to start digging into parts of yourself that are going to help you grow and develop as a person. And like, I've recently started reading more and things like that. And not saying that I'm cured in the name of Jesus, but I definitely am starting to prioritize and realize that folks gonna let you down, baby. Okay? Down to the ground. But it's like, in that, you have to really seek God out, and you really have to make space for him to come into your life. And to be honest, you have to invite him in, because God is not going to be like, boom, kick the door down. Like, he wants to be in communion with us. He wants to be in relationship with us, and we just have to let him in. And I wasn't doing that. I'm like, God, where are you? Where you at? What you doing? I'm on my last. And never one time was I like, God, I need you. Like, God, I need you. I was just like, he doesn't answer my prayers, and he's not listening to me, and he's not showing up in my life. And not once did I ask him to do so. At all. Ever. Throughout these last 2 months, like, I have never sat down and been like, Lord, I need you. I need you to make a way. I'm just like, cricket, like, God, hurry up and know what I need. Honey, it's called a relationship with Christ because it's a two-way street. And you really have to ask him and invite him into your life and invite him into your space. And what I realized, that I was trying to do everything on my own. Like, I'm trying to manage an organization and manage a classroom. Do this and do that and do this and do that. Honey, look. We are humans, and we're going to fall short every time. And the scripture that I've been meditating on is, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Like, really, God is wanting to show up in our lives in so many ways and in so many avenues and through so many people. But we don't allow him to do that because we feel like we can do everything on our own. And if we can do everything on our own, honey, many of the man-made issues such as anxiety, depression, sorrow, we wouldn't have them, but we have them because we can't do it on our own. And I've also realized that God wants us to live a full and whole life. And in order to do that, we really have to silence the devil, honey. Ain't no, silence the voices in your head. That's the devil, baby. Okay? The devil himself. And understanding that means that you realize that when there is a time when you feel low and when you feel down, you have to consult with God. You can't be out here, and trust me, I'm all here for the self-help books and this, that, and the third. But baby, get in your word, okay? And I'm speaking to myself right now. Get in your word and really ask God, what do you want to do with me? How do you want to show up in my life? And so it's been about 2.5 weeks since that experience, and it's a journey, y'all, and I'm feeling better. I have been able to get out the bed and have something to look forward to. I'm conditioning myself to, instead of hopping out the bed and being on social media, which is another thing, y'all. Social media is a great tool. Trust me. You can use it to market. You can use it to learn about new products and new businesses. But sometimes, honey, the devil will use social media to make you compare your journey and your life with other people your age. Oh, well, I'm 24 and I don't have this, that, and the third, and I'm this. And what I realized is that I'm 24 and so many people don't have what I have. So instead of me being on social media comparing my life to other people, how about I wake up with thankfulness in my mouth and thank the Lord for the things that I have and the things that, because when you realize all the things that you have that other people don't have, you are quick to check yourself and be like, how dare I be ungrateful, and how dare I be asking God to enlarge my territory when I'm not even grateful for what I have. And so I really had to, I love social media. I use it for my business. I use it to brand my business and market my business and do all these things. But I had to be like, you're going to set yourself a timer. And I use screen time on my iPhone, iPad, iWatch, all that. I use screen time, and at 8 o'clock every night until 6:30 the next morning, all my apps are locked. Minus the ones that I may need for emergencies, such as text messages, or I'm a teacher, so GroupMe, or Remind.com in case a parent needs to reach out. But when it comes to social media and things of that nature, honey, my phone is off. I'm not reading a message till the morning. On the weekends, I may give myself a little more time, but I'm either in here watching documentaries, reading the Word, reading new books that I've gotten. But baby, I'm not on social media comparing myself to people 24/7, because that can be very, very overwhelming. And that was another part of my life where depression started to creep in, because it's like, well, she doing this and she doing that, and she younger than you, or she started her business after you, and she's getting, and it's like, that's her walk with God, or that's his walk with God. That has nothing to do with me, because I have to know that, honey, my favorite song by Travis Green is intentional. All things are working for my good, because my God is intentional and never failing, and everything that's for me is going to be for me. And in order for me to understand that, I have to believe that God has created a life for me and set things up for me beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm not able to understand that or see that when I'm on here crying and comparing myself to other people. So I don't know who needed to hear that, but if you spend your time on social media being sad and down, comparing yourself to other people, honey, turn that phone off. Turn it off. Power it down. Leave it for later. Let it go. And find something that is going to bring you joy and happiness. And so I am declaring that I have overcome depression. I am declaring that I have grown in Christ over these last few years, over these last few weeks, and even over these last few days, okay? And I've realized that God is a God of grace and mercy, and everyone in this life has a purpose. And I feel like when depression creeps in, the devil tries to make us seem like we don't matter. And it's like, well, if your life was to end today, I mean, what would it be? Honey, no. If your life was to end today, that means that the purpose that God has for you is going to go unfulfilled. That means that the people that love you and rely on you are going to be heartbroken. That means that the joy that he has for your life and the ways that he wants to elevate you and show you new things, it's not going to happen. That's what that means. So your life does matter. And yes, you do need to be here. And like I said, I'm speaking to myself in this video. My life matters. I need to be here because I was created. God spent his time creating me for such a time as this, for a purpose, for a reason. And I feel like when you really get in his word and you start to understand that reason, then you're like, honey, no matter what is going on, I know that I have a reason for being here. And you cannot find your purpose in nobody else. You cannot find your purpose in your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mama, your daddy, your sister, your grandma. In my case, my co-workers. No, you have to find your purpose in God. Really. And you have to allow him to tell you what you are supposed to be doing, where you are supposed to be, and show him, and you have to allow him to show you what he has for your life. Period. And when you allow that to happen, honey, you will be on to a whole nother thing, okay? Let me tell you that. So, like I said, I hope this encourages somebody today. If you're struggling with depression, definitely. Also, another thing is, God has created so many people in so many earthly realms. Seek therapy. Get you a counselor. Get you a spiritual advisor. Get you somebody who is really going to show you the places in the natural that you need help with. Because in the natural, honey, I needed to learn how to say no to people. In the spiritual, that was the devil and demons coming to steal, kill, and destroy. In the natural, I go to counseling. Okay? And I meet with my pastor, and I meet with other spiritual people in my life. In the spiritual, honey, I need to bind those demons up. But like I said, don't sit around and feel like you're the only person that's going through this, because you're not. And there are so many people who need you here, and so many people who want you here, and so many people you haven't even met that need you, okay? So many people who God has planned for y'all to meet in 5 years for his glory, or to start a business, or to have a family, or to save somebody's life, to be a witness. And it's like, if you allow depression to steal your joy to the point where you take your life, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Somebody else's story is gonna be unfulfilled, because you're a part of not only your own story, but God has positioned you to be in other people's stories and in other people's lives. So I am all done and ready to go. This is cute. Okay. But like I said, I really want this video to just be encouraging to somebody in their time of need, and realize that God really has put something in you that only he can pull out. Like I said, I feel like in this journey over these past few months, I've realized that I've really been trying to find myself in other people. And it's great, and people can come to you and they can say what God told them, and that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about genuinely allowing other people to dictate my joy, my happiness, my sorrow, when I eat, when I sleep, what I do, what I like, what I don't like. No. You have to understand that God has created, he created you in an image of him, and in knowing that, he wants you here. And while you're here, though, you need to be able to understand when things go wrong around you. One, that that's the devil in many cases. And two, that the devil sends people to do his work. So what I realized in a lot of just past friendships, we talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, past relationships, the devil really sent them to harm me. And if I would have been more in the word and had more of a relationship with God, I would have been able to discern that. Since I did not, though, I allowed that demonic presence and that demonic stronghold to fester for years and years and years. And so now, as a 24-year-old, about to be 25, whoop, shout out to July babies, I have allowed things to kind of pile up like a sandwich. And I've never really dealt with those things. And now I am claiming victory this year. I am not allowing anything around me to be so detrimental to me, to the point where I'm not able to push forward and focus and prevail as a woman of God. And in order to do that, I had to realize, like, why am I always calling somebody, complaining about how I feel, or crying on the phone, when what I really should be doing is getting on my knees, or however you pray, because prayer looks different for everybody, or sitting in my chair and journaling, or reaching out to a spiritual advisor or something like that and really allowing them to tell me what God has said, or why have I not gotten in the faith